Okay, so this wants us to explain how we could turn this carbohydrate solution into a flask containing ethanol. So this is asking you to describe how we do fermentation. And to do that, we would need to add yeast, because yeast contains the enzymes needed to complete fermentation, and we would need to have this flask in a warm environment to help that to function. Next one. Okay, we've got here the apparatus is used to increase the concentration of the ethanol. The apparatus did not produce a very concentrated solution. Describe how the apparatus can be altered to produce a more concentrated. So what we need to do here, in this part here, we need to have a longer column that is a fractionating column. And that means that as the gases come up, they've definitely got to be at the right temperature to reach the top before they enter the condenser. So I'm going to say here is add a fractionating column. So if you remember, that was a long tube, and inside the tube it had little bits putting in, and any gas that wasn't hot enough would condense on that and drip back into the flask, and that made sure it was going to work, right? So add a fractionating column, and that's going to go between the flask and exit for the condenser. One mark for each. Okay, next one is a calculation. So it tells us here we've got a mass of 135 grams of the carbohydrates. We've got 135 grams of this, and we want to work out the mass of carbon dioxide. So I'm not worried about that. So what I'm going to do first of all, step one, is I'm going to work out the moles of the carbohydrate. And according to the equation, the moles is going to be the mass divided by the MR. So the mass is 135, and the MR, it tells me here, is 180. So 135 divided by 180 is 0.75 moles. Then I'm going to look at the ratio. So the ratio in the question is, I've got one lot of this C6H12O6, but I've got two lots of carbon dioxide. So we just worked out we've got 0.75. So what I'm trying to do here is go from there to there, which is going from there to there. So I've got to double that. Therefore, I'm going to double that. So times that by 2, and that's going to give me an answer of 1.5. And then all I'm going to do is the final bit is now work out the mass. And the mass of the CO2. So mass is going to be MR times moles. The MR is 44 and the moles is 1.5. So times that by 44, and I'm getting an answer here of 66 grams as a final answer. Okay, last little bit is another 6 marker. Again, a lot of information here, so make sure you have a good look at it. And underneath it says explain why these compounds belong to a homologous series. Now what we need to remember here, there are 4 criteria to belong to a homologous series. So we need to have the same general formula. They need to differ from each other by a CH2 group. Has to be a trend in their physical properties, and they have to have similar chemical properties. So if we look at each one of these in turn, these are all oic acids, so they will have the same general formula. The general formula they have is given here, and they also, if we highlight it here, they all contain the same functional group, the special part that makes them what they are. They all contain the same functional group as well, which is a COOH. This makes them carboxylic acids, and each of them differ from each other by a CH2 group. So we've kind of done same general formula and differ by, so explain these two with these examples. Let's look at the trend in physical properties. So I'm going to say there is a trend in their physical properties. For example, if you look here, the density of these is different. And if you pick the lightest one, so the mass of 60 here, that's got a density of 105. And as you increase the mass, then the density reduces. So I've said that here, density reduces as mass increases. And then the other thing you've got here as well is as the mass increases, the boiling point increases. So there's two trends in physical properties. The next bit here is the chemical properties. So you can see that they all react with sodium hydroxide. So that's a similar pattern. So they react in a similar way with sodium hydroxide. When you take a carboxylic acid and sodium hydroxide, that is a neutralization reaction. So you'll make a salt during that process. So it's a neutralization reaction and it forms a salt. They also, it says, all react with alcohols. So again, there's a trend in here. There's all going to react with alcohols. And when they do that, they are going to form an ester. I've worked out that I think there are 14 bullet points. So again, if you've got 12 or more, give yourself 6 marks, and then work out how many you've got to work out the number of marks you get for that particular question.